So, Mineplex is back. If you were a Minecraft kid, you know, like a proper Minecraft kid, this server was everything back then. It opened in 2013 and within 2 years had things like Guinness World Records, 34,000 people all on the same server at the same time. It's not a small number, that. And for a while, it genuinely felt like that. You know, Champions, Mine Strikes of our games, those were the games that people were just obsessed with. It had that kind of feeling where you'd log on after school and just lose hours, like time would fly by, you know what I mean? But here's the thing about Mineplex that I think really gets glossed over, and I thought I'd just record this video with some Mineplex in the background because the server's back and we're going to go into that later in this video. But it just failed slowly over many years, and for really boring reasons. The original founders drifted away. By the time that new people took over the business side, the people who had no previous Minecraft experience were now the ones that were deciding what the server should do next. Hypixel, of course, came along, grew in popularity, and just did it better. More games, more updates, more consistency. They lost the world record to Hypixel as well the same year that they set it, which is just, you know, it just says it all, doesn't it? But by 2013, Java was basically a ghost town on Mineplex. Bedrock was still doing alright. You know, it was averaging 4,000 players, but that just wasn't enough to keep the lights on. You know, and then on the 11th of May 2023, the server just went offline. No warning, no event, no nothing. And staff had said that they'd not been told what was going to happen, and the ownership had simply just decided to stop paying for the server, which is crazy. There were rumours floating around of roughly a $40,000 debt to a hosting company. This was never confirmed, but honestly, it tracks, right? And the announcement that was actually, you know, permanent, like the server closing was permanent, came from a staff member called Dean, who basically had to be the one to break the news because nobody above him would do it. And that is such a horrible position to be in. But, you know, that was it. One of the most historically significant Minecraft servers in history was just gone, with no goodbye. But then 2 weeks later, Sam, otherwise known as Samito, who'd been a former admin on the server and had been an Overwatch streamer since, saw the news and bought the whole thing, bought the whole company. And on paper, that's quite wholesome, right? He, you know, somebody that really cares stepped up, and we were all very excited. I remember following along the progress in the Discord server and on the website, just waiting for that day where we get all our old minigames back. But that's not what happened, and I think it's a lesson to all of us, and especially to the Mineplex company itself back then, that it was a massive vision misalignment. Like, his idea for what Mineplex could have been and what the community actually wanted were two very different things, and about 5 months in, he announced that Mineplex was no longer going to be just a minigame server. It was going to become a development platform. You know, teams could build their own games on the infrastructure from monthly subscription, take a cut of the revenue, a bit like Roblox, you know, within Minecraft kind of thing. Which is honestly an interesting concept. I wasn't really sure what I thought of it when I first saw it. I was like, this isn't going to work, is it? But it's not Mineplex. That's the problem, and that's not why anybody cared about Mineplex. The community mostly just wanted the old server back with the team that actually gave a damn. But there was also a Bedrock problem. You know, the Bedrock server had been about 90% of Mineplex's revenue before shutdown, and getting it back required coordinating with Mojang and Microsoft, who, by all accounts, were very slow, disorganized, and basically impossible to pin down. That playtest for Microsoft that we all heard about never actually happened, and, you know, years went by, and then a closed beta did eventually launch in August of 2024, but it was behind a paywall, which, again, wasn't what people wanted to hear after a year of waiting. You know, some game modes were well received. There was a Christmas beta in December that went down a little bit better, but momentum just kept stalling from there. You know, development went quiet around September, I think in 2025, and then just stayed quiet. But that brings us to today. So Samito admitted it. Him and his team recognized that they were building a cloud infrastructure company and not what Mineplex was supposed to be. So he handed it over. And that brings us to James, who is the current owner of Mineplex. He's a former Minecraft mod who, after the shutdown, ran a server called Crits, which was basically a recreation of Mineplex's classic modes. You know, I think it was Champions, Cake Wars. So that is someone who loved the server so much that when it died, he built his own version of it. That's the energy that you want going into Revival, and we were all very excited when I saw this a few months back. And the new team is James, Flamed, and Oro, and they did something that sounds obvious, but it's quite rare in Minecraft server history. They just listened to the community. They were transparent. They communicated with us all. They spoke to us all about what we actually wanted, and the relaunch on June 12th, 2026, you know, resembled a pre-shutdown server. Like, we all came on. There was classic game modes, the original hub, the cosmetics were back. It felt like Mineplex again, and yes, there were some problems when the server first launched, of course. Over 11,000 people were trying to join on launch day with queues of thousands of people. It then settled into a steady 2 to 5k players daily in the week after. You know, Crits, the server was running before this, went defunct pretty soon, you know, after he got the Mineplex keys, which makes sense because why run a tribute band when you have the original? So, my thoughts, where's it going to go from here? I think that the core audience is there. You know, the nostalgia alone pulled 11,000 people back on day one. That's pretty impressive. And the new team seem to actually understand. They know what people want. They know what people don't want. And it's you know, everybody just wants Cake Wars. They want champions. They want to log back in and feel like it's 2015. And that is exactly what I wanted. And there's some plans that they've mentioned and outlined to us all, for modern combat versions of modes, an SMP game, an MMO, maybe even a murder mystery style game. I think they mentioned, factions, things like that. So they're not just trying to freeze the server in time. They're not just fully running off nostalgia, and that's probably the right call. Pure nostalgia gets you the launch, it gets you the money when it comes, and it doesn't keep people coming back though after 6 months later. So the thing to watch is whether they can keep the momentum going once the honeymoon period ends, of course, and that is where Mineplex has always struggled. Not the peaks, but the consistency. And if James and the team can just keep showing up, keep updating, keep talking to people, I think that there is a genuine future for Mineplex. And yes, I have my doubts, but I also have my trust in the team, and hopefully the server will live on. And maybe that's enough. Maybe Mineplex doesn't need to be the biggest server anymore. Maybe it just needs to be a good one. But thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have a lovely rest of your day whenever you're seeing this video. It's been a while since I posted on this channel. I just thought I'd come back on, give my thoughts on the server, and just kind of explain what I think of it, and a bit about the past for those who don't know. Maybe you've just discovered Mineplex again. Maybe you heard the name in the past, but didn't really know what happened. This is what happened. But thank you all for watching. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.